Over the past few years, it has become a major cope in the fitness industry to obsessively talk about rest and recovery. And not because rest and recovery is bad or overrated or anything like that. It's obviously very good and very important and very necessary. It's just that most people are just not training hard enough to have this obsession with rest and recovery. And what I mean by this is that people are going crazy about ice baths and the Normatec boots, like those compression boots, if you've seen those ones, foam rolling and all these supplement routines and compression leggings and this, that, and the other gadget, the Theragun type stuff. Like, what are you recovering from? Your 45-minute Orange Theory class, your Pilates workout, like your RPE 6 30-minute lifting session. Like, this doesn't require that much recovery. And not to mention, you are probably also not doing some of the big things for recovery, like dialing in your sleep and, just resting and taking your rest days and programming and stuff appropriately. And so, all of these things, it feels good, right? You're taking supplements, you're adding new products, you're doing a recovery protocol, you're doing all these things. It's just like you're kind of missing the forest for the trees. And so you're doing all the stuff, and yet you still don't feel recovered enough. Meanwhile, these things didn't even exist. Like, this wasn't a conversation 8, 10, 12, 15 years ago. These weren't things. And people didn't have these major recovery problems from their workouts. So we're obviously doing something wrong here. The other side of this is that the people who get hyper-focused on this are typically, and I bet the vast majority of you listening to this, other than just like regular listeners who listen to every episode, which shout out to you, and make sure you leave a review and subscribe and all that stuff. But if you're listening to this, there's a good chance that you are a type A sort of person, where you want to have your workouts dialed, you want to have your nutrition dialed, you're pretty good, and you want to have a recovery routine, and you do a thing. What ends up happening is that you try to recover so hard that you start to do this whole protocol and buy all these products and do all the stuff, and it just becomes another chore for you. And so your recovery is becoming more of a stress than it is a recovery. And obviously that's not having the intended result, and that is why you're continually seeking out things to help you recover and little things to add and things to do, when maybe there's something else that we've got to do here. We've got to find our way back to the forest and stop focusing on some trees. So with that, there are 3 elements that I'm going to discuss. Kind of break it down to 3 parts. 1 is like your actual post-workout and physical recovery of that. 2 is your sleep, which is your biggest and main and major recovery tool. And then 3 is your kind of global recovery, and that'll go into a little bit more of like lifestyle stuff, and it'll help you with the rest of your life as well as just workout stuff, but kind of your global recovery, rest days, that kind of stuff. So post-workout. There's way less to do than you think there is. 1, make sure you're training hard so you have stuff to recover from. 2, when you're done your workout, you need to make sure that you're getting hydrated. That's a source of feeling lethargic or tired or lack of recovery or extra sore muscles. So again, pretty simple, not going to be rocket science, but make sure you're hydrated. If you're sweating a ton, if you sweat a lot, maybe use an electrolyte supplement that may help you. Most people, I would say, don't sweat that much. If you're working outside, if you go for a run outside, if you sweat more than average, there's nothing wrong with it. It's I shouldn't say there's nothing wrong with it. There are some reports of people who are like way overdoing it. So use your brain. Don't take 15 packs of a electrolyte supplement a day. Like 1 dose is plenty. And obviously, if you have any other health issues that may be impacted by this, skip it. But effectively, if you're half intelligent, it's perfectly safe and perfectly fine. So make sure you're hydrated. Make sure you're eating well. Make sure you're getting your protein and getting sufficient calories in, including your carbohydrates and fats. Now, this isn't about like anabolic window. You don't need to be shoveling food and water and stuff down your throat like the second after your workout, but just in general, like make sure that you are adequately fueling yourself. even if you're in a deficit, that doesn't mean, eat a ton, but don't be in, a 1,000 calorie deficit for 4 months in a row. Like, that is the reason you're not recovering if that's you, right? If you're in a deficit, stick to the calories that you're supposed to stick to. Don't undershoot it by too much too often. If you're fueling yourself well, your body will have the raw materials to be able to recover, to be able to help your muscles, and to essentially help you recover and rest and be ready for the next session. So I know that that's like pretty basic, but that's a whole lot of the stuff right there. Is like, just make sure you're eating well, make sure you're drinking enough water. I can't tell you how many times, I talk to people and clients and just, people who message me and stuff, and they're worried about, like, they're so sore, and I look at their workouts and I'm like, hey, listen, this is basically like a really long warm up. I don't know what you're so sore from or so unrecovered from. And then we talk about their nutrition, and it's like they never drink water, they're constantly dehydrated, and their eating is just all over the map and not in a good way. And so fix those two things. It's going to fix a lot of your problems. Another thing, a little bit more actionable post-workout, maybe more specifically on lower body workouts and leg days, but it goes for everything. Light movement is actually very good for you, and that's not recovery as in, kick your feet up and just chill, but light movement is good for you, especially after a leg day. Again, even just like 5 minutes literally of like pretty slow walking or pretty slow cycling or something like that is going to help a lot with soreness, one, as you're just kind of flushing, getting some blood flow and a little bit more blood flow, moving the inflammation around a little bit, that kind of stuff. That's going to help a ton. And even outside of the immediate effects post-workout is just get some movement in. When you are like training and then not training, and when you're not training, you're just like sat at your desk or sat on the couch or just not moving at all. This is for sure scientifically not accurate, what I'm about to say, but it's confusing your body, okay? And so that doesn't mean a whole lot, and so don't look into that and don't ask me to cite studies and whatever, but it's confusing your body. If you're constantly moving a little bit and just getting more activity, it's going to help you to just recover better, because this is more of a normal state. And yes, this is woo-woo, and yes, it's not scientific accurate. I get it, but just trust me, it works. If there's downsides to this, let me know, but I've never heard of a downside of being more active to a degree. Light movement, going to be good. On the whole workout side of things, space out your workouts accordingly. You don't need to, I think you should exercise every day, going into our, what I just said about light activity constantly. I think you should exercise every day. You don't need to train your absolute hardest every single day of the week. That is unlikely to produce beneficial results. You're probably going to have diminishing returns at some point after like 4 or 5 days of lifting. And it's just making it harder to recover from. And like, unless you're a pro athlete or something like that, there's no need for you to be doing that. So you need to exercise every day, but you don't need to train your hardest every day. Now, you should also spread things out. So if you're going to get 2 leg days in a week, don't do them on Monday and Tuesday. Maybe do it on Monday and Thursday, or Monday and Friday, or whatever split you want to do, Tuesday and Saturday. And same as your upper body days, like spread your workouts out, give yourself rest days in between. And if you don't want to necessarily have total days off, like full body days are great, and you can go to the gym back-to-back days and work on different muscle groups. So if you do legs on Tuesday, or legs on Monday rather, upper body on Tuesday, you do some cardio on Wednesday, you do legs again on Thursday, you do upper body on Friday, you do some cardio or some mobility work on Saturday, and Sundays like just a long walk, stroll kind of thing. Like, that's a solid split of training, and you're basically doing things every day at a decent intensity, but not repeating the same thing for like 3 or 4 days. And so therefore your body's recovering, and those parts of your body are always recovered in time for the next session. So that's definitely a little bit more of an involved conversation and goes into more of your programming. But here's another thing to think about, and this is maybe a little bit counter to what I just said, is that a large part of your recovery is neurological. Not to sound like a huge nerd here, but like it's much more neurological than it is physical. Like, your muscles will be sore and that's fine, but like you can probably deal with that a little bit more. It's the feeling of like you feel tired, even though you're not tired. You just feel tired. It feels like it's hard to get going. Your motivation is low. Your enthusiasm is low. Your body is just telling you that it doesn't want to do it. But like physically, you probably feel fine and you probably could do it. So your recovery is very neurological. So if you are like really redlining it every single day, your nervous system, even though you're training different muscle groups and different like body systems every day, for lack of a better term, you're redlining it every day and your nervous system is getting redlined every single day. And that's going to be the thing that's going to be hard to recover from. So that is where your programming kind of comes into play a little bit more. And I'm not going to get into the details of that. If you have questions about that, obviously feel free to reach out and ask me. Plenty of other podcast episodes about programming stuff and all that stuff. Maybe work with a coach. Maybe, let me know. But you got to deal with your programming so that you're not just like redlining it every single day, because it's going to catch up to you eventually. If you are in fact actually redlining it, which most people are not ever. Another two things on the post-workout side of this equation. Deal with your injuries. Another thing that I see very common is like, hey, I've been having this like elbow thing for like 6 months. Like, dude, 6 months. Like, get this dealt with. Figure it out. Like, that's impacting your ability to work out, your ability to sleep, your enthusiasm for training, all these things. Like, you need to deal with your injuries. Don't let things linger. And again, overly simple, but deal with your injuries and get them out of your head and out of your body so you can just get back to doing normal stuff, because that's impacting your ability to recover as well. And lastly on this is, I would be remiss to not mention stretching. Stretching is great and it's all fine and good and there's nothing wrong with it. I like it. It's just not doing the things that you think it is probably, and it's not really going to impact your recovery a whole much, other than being another form of light movement, like walking is, like cycling is, like, whatever, housework kind of stuff. So it's fine. It's just not necessary, and it's not really moving the needle a whole lot on your ability to recover. So you can be happy that it's not necessary. To finish this section off, I just want you to know that, or I want to reiterate rather, that you don't need a gigantic routine. It doesn't need to be that complicated. As long as you're fueling your body appropriately, sleeping, which we're going to talk about next, appropriately, and just like resting, and your program is kind of the setup pretty okay, you don't need to be doing a whole bunch of advanced recovery techniques. Like, if you want to take supplements, I mean, fine, nothing wrong with it. It's cool. I think magnesium is a great one. You should take some magnesium at night. Like, that's fine. Definitely going to help you a little bit. But like, if you're not eating properly, not hydrating yourself, not sleeping, and not programming yourself and resting correctly, little magnesium pills not going to do anything. The Normatec boots not going to do anything. Your restorative yoga class, whatever, might actually do something. But that was a bad example. But my point is, you don't need like a 15-step recovery routine, because you are creating more work for yourself and creating more anxiety for yourself, and your recovery is becoming a chore instead of just like chilling, that's what recovery is supposed to be. So that being said, and I imagine I'll repeat that at some point before the end of this episode. Let's talk about sleep. Very cool. Sleep. Not that cool at all. Pretty boring. Extremely important, however, obviously. And we say this as obvious, and yet everyone really struggles with their sleep. I think that part of the reason why the whole recovery gimmick and tool and supplement whatever thing is taken off is part of something that I've spoken about as a broader theme quite a bit. I think it was like episode 207, something about the one with the thumbnail that has Ronnie Coleman on it. But it's way easier to take a supplement, to do a little foam roll, to put the boots on, put the recovery compression thing on, use a Theragun a little bit. It's way easier to do all of that stuff than it is to fix your sleep routine and actually get in a good, healthy sleep hygiene. And so people are gravitated towards that because, I can just wear these boots. I can just take the supplement. I can just do XYZ that takes me 5 minutes and only costs me $50. Like, that's a good trade. That's what you say in your mind. and it just doesn't have the results that you want. But we keep chasing these things, and we see this same like trying to do the easy thing in training, trying to do the easy thing with nutrition, trying to do the easy thing with everything in life. And almost never, I'm sure there's some examples, but almost never is the easy way the best way, and does the easy way even work? It may work for a bit, it may help a little bit, but it's never going to solve the problem. So keep that in mind next time you're like looking for some recovery thing and you're just not sleeping. You can't keep putting it off and say like, well, it's too difficult because of my job, my kids, my spouse, my life, my whatever. I can't really fix my sleep, but I can take another supplement. I can do this. Maybe you need to figure out whatever is going on in your life, and you need to figure out how to sleep a little bit better, because that is the thing that is actually going to move the needle and improve things for you. That being said, you need to get into a bedtime routine. And this is like a little 5-year-old. You get a, I don't have kids yet, but toddlers, I imagine you put them in some sort of, bedtime routine, maybe tell them a bedtime story, which is a great thing. And I'll tell that in a second, but bedtime story, and we brush our teeth and we do this and we, put the teddy bears away, and then we get in bed and we snuggle and then you sleep. Okay. Like cool. Because we have bedtime routines so that kids can get to sleep. Well, why do we stop doing that as adults? You should have some sort of sleep routine where you're going to bed at the same time. Cannot stress how important that is enough. Cannot stress enough how important that is. Did it make sense the other way? Whatever. Go to sleep at the same time every night. Try to have a cool room, and if you can't control the temperature exactly in your room, like don't fret about that one too much, because there's other things involved rather than like it's less controllable than some other things for some people, depending on your house setup. Get off your screens. Half an hour ideally, but half an hour, 20 minutes even before bed. Wear some like blue light glasses if that's like a reminder to you. How effective they are is up for debate and all that, but it's like $10, doesn't hurt, doesn't do anything bad. But either way, like don't wear the glasses and then just like stay on your phone and stay on your computer and stuff. Like that's not the point. The point is to get off the screens, one, for the blue light coming from the screen, but two, from the psychological and mental and cognitive stimulation that the information on the screen is giving you. So get off your screens, put your work away, put all that stuff away, get organized for the next day. Maybe go take a shower and do your like self-care stuff. Don't have caffeine too close to bed. Like all of these things are the things that really matter, just to having a good bedtime routine. And my favorite thing that I do, I've been doing this for years now and advise all my clients to do it, is reading yourself a bedtime story. Have a book that you keep beside your bed that is not like a technical book. It's whatever the one that is not real. Fiction, nonfiction, whatever. I always mix it up. But not a technical book, not something about work, not something that's going to stimulate major thoughts in your brain. Just a story. And what even works really great for this is a book that you've read before, because then you're not like so excited about it that you're like page flipping and like can't wait to see what happens in the story, because you know what happens in the story. So it's like you're reading it and it's enough to just keep you focused and quiet your mind down and get rid of the thoughts of the day and just kind of let you be there. And that will lull you into sleep. But it's not so stimulating that you're like, again, flipping the pages and thinking about, oh yeah, that's that work thing or this technical thing. I got to write this down and, say this in the meeting tomorrow. And you don't want to be getting into that kind of reading before bed, clearly. So pick a story. Best would be one that you've read before, some sort of novel that you've read before, and read yourself a bedtime story. It's going to help you get to sleep. As far as timing, you want to aim for 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep per night as best you can. If you have some reason why you can't sleep that much, I'm sorry. Do your best. Whatever it is that you can. If you're a new parent, obviously you're not sleeping that much, and certainly not in a row. And I get it that there's all sorts of things. This isn't a perfect world. If you can sleep that much, that would be great. And probably most of us can get in a little bit more sleep than we currently are if we stop scrolling and stop wasting time doing silly stuff. So aim for that 7.5 to 9 hours. 7.5 to 9 hours is just like that's kind of the way that the sleep cycles work out in like hour and a half cycles. So the generic like 8 hours of sleep rule works really well because one, it's just like an equal third of the day. So that. Two, if you aim to go to sleep for 8 hours, it's not you're gonna exactly fall asleep as soon as you get in bed. So say there's like a 20-minute or half an hour period of you rolling around until you fall asleep, you'll end up at 7.5 and you'll be perfectly fine. Or if you get a little bit more, you're 8 and you're 9 hours and you're good. So it's just simple math really. But anywhere in that range is gonna be good. And if you can't get that much sleep, do the best you can. But still also do the best you can to stay in a routine. The sleep timing, like the time you go to sleep and the time you wake up, is huge. I've heard it likened to if you're always going to sleep and waking up at different times, even if it's like an hour off or whatever, I've heard it likened to basically giving yourself like a jet lag because your body is always kind of operating on a bit of a different circadian rhythm. Now the sun is obviously the same and all that stuff when you're in the same location, but your wake and sleep cycles are always different, and so it's throwing you off a little bit. So best to sleep and wake at the same time, and yes, that includes the weekends, to the best of your ability. So I know that this is all kind of like pretty simple, and you've probably heard it before. You've almost certainly heard it from me before if you're a regular listener, but it's unbelievably important, and there are no amount of post-workout recovery tools or protocols that you can use that are going to outweigh just getting a good night's sleep. That is by far the best thing that you can do for your rest and recovery so that you can be hitting your goals, so that you can be recovered in time for the next workout, so you can push hard in the gym, so that you can push hard like very often and not need to take a week off or not need to take days off after a hard workout. Get your sleep in. That's when all the recovery happens in your body anyways. It's not happening during that 7 minutes of whatever thing you did. It's happening during the 7.5 hours of sleep that you're getting at night. So make sure that you are dialing this in. Cannot stress the importance of your sleep enough. Lastly is kind of like your general rest in your life. And this is like non-sleep rest, we'll say. So like answer this question. When was the last time that you really rested? And when I say rest, I mean, or I don't mean, it was a rest day and you went to the gym and did a light workout. Or it was a rest day and you cleaned your whole house and did 3 hours of yard work and ran 15 errands and cleared your email inbox and, but at least you didn't lift that hard. Like that is not rest, although we will often call that rest. What I mean when I say rest is like you sit down outside with your friends or family or alone with a book maybe, or maybe not. And you just chit chat or you sit in silence and you kind of just like kick your feet up and really just do nothing. And I mean, like you're not talking about work. You're not talking about that stressful family event. You're not planning a crazy vacation, although that can be fun and restful. But like, you get into planning mode and trying to like book flights and hotel, like, you're trying to book stuff and look things up. I mean, you're just like sitting around, kicking back, shooting the shit. Like I said before, rest is so much more about your nervous system than it is about your muscles. So all of those like rest and recovery tools, they're all focused on repairing your muscles. And like I said at the beginning, one, you're probably not even training hard enough to warrant that level of like muscle tissue recovery. You just don't need it. And two, it's not doing anything for helping your nervous system. And in fact, it might be even making things worse because now this recovery protocol has become a source of stress to you. And your nervous system is still being taxed because you're like, oh my God, I got to get on my 7 minutes of like whatever thing. And if you don't do that, it stresses you out. So your nervous system is never getting a relaxation. Your nervous system relaxes when you're sitting outside in nature, you kick your feet up, and you're just like hanging out with your friends or just like listening to the birds chirp. That's rest for your nervous system. Now, talking about amounts and protocols of this. I don't even want to, I don't even want to give you a protocol. And listen, I understand that this is difficult. It's difficult to rest. Like we live, if you're listening to this in North America, like myself, if you're in Europe and you're listening to this, you probably are like, what are these people talking about? We rest all the time and they have the best life. But it's hard. It's hard to rest. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with your job. There's a lot of things to do. You have a to-do list and you want to accomplish goals. And like, I get it. I struggle with this too. And like everyone I know struggles with this to some degree, but we got to get this in. What I don't need you to do is a rest for 3 hours every single day. Obviously, that's just like not really that conducive to having a productive life. And you probably don't need that much rest. But if you can get in 10 or 15 minutes a day of just like legitimate rest, or an afternoon on the weekends, or, a whole day every couple weeks or whatever it is, like that's probably plenty. I mean, the exact prescription is obviously dependent on you and your individual situation and what you can have time for, what you can make time for, and what you require. But it doesn't really matter. You rest as much as you need. And again, you turn it back into a chore and we're back in the same problem. Like I would even go as far as to say is like this, like legitimate resting should be done without your phone. And only because if you're on your phone, like even just scrolling social media, you're going to see stuff that's related to your job. You're going to see stuff that maybe makes you angry, that's maybe political or news driven. You're going to see stuff that you disagree with. You're going to see, you're going to see some funny cat videos and those things too. And that is kind of restful. But even still, like the constant like dopamine hits from just scrolling social media, even if it's just funny stuff and stupid videos only, if you can somehow get your algorithm to like just only show you that, there's no way that can be good for rest. And so you need to do things that are slow and that are not massively quick hits of dopamine. So maybe even watching a movie and watch a movie without your phone. Like you just sit and watch a single movie and you sit there for the whole 2.5 hours. That can be fine. Or a show. Or again, sitting outside with people, reading a book. Like these things are all pleasurable and they're all good, but they're not like these quick hits of dopamine like you're going to get from just scrolling on your phone. So you want to find activities that can be good for that. Now it can be some light activity. You go for a walk in nature. Obviously that's plenty restful. That's not like, as long as you're not going on some crazy hike and you packed a 35-pound backpack and you're going to go hike for 6 hours, like that's not restful. But like, just a leisurely stroll. Again, your muscles are probably perfectly fine in their recovery. It's your nervous system. So a leisurely stroll outside, like that's not going to impact your muscle recovery. It doesn't matter. And it's going to be good for your nervous system, especially if you're chatting and, talking to a friend, even if it's on the phone, but talking to someone that's with you. I would even go as far to say, and this is like pretty counter to a lot of other things that I say, that like this is where one could make the argument that alcohol has a place in fitness. And it certainly doesn't help you. Like in no way is it healthy for you. Obviously, I think we've well established that now. But for the social benefit of kicking your feet up and having a beer with a buddy, that has some value. Now, if that turns into 9 beers twice a week, yeah, that's probably not, now you've overdone it, obviously. But you sit back with a beer, with a cocktail or a glass of wine, whatever your thing is it really moving the needle that much negatively on your health? If it's helping you to actually relax and just, get out of your head and just chill out a little bit and regulate your nervous system, like, yeah, I think that there's a strong argument there for that. Now, I wouldn't go out of my way to include that. If you can get it done without alcohol, then by all means, go for it. But if it's one of those things that might help you get into it, then yeah, I think that there's an argument to be made there. Again, no one would say that alcohol is healthy for you, but is one glass of wine, is one beer, is one cocktail, like, is it that bad for your health? No. Is it bad for your health if one turns into 7? Yes. So, be intelligent about this. But I think there's an argument to be made that it can be included here. Now, if you're able to do this a couple times a week, and even daily for like a few minutes, if you could just kind of, call it meditation, call it prayer, whatever thing you're into, where you can just kind of like have some quiet time to just chill out. But if you can get like some, a longer session in, let's say a couple hours or whatever, a couple times a week, once or twice a week, or 3 times, whatever you can get, you'll start to notice a big improvement, because this is when, again, your nervous system is getting regulated. You'll be happier. You'll just be more level-headed and better able to recover. And you don't need a fitness tracker. Like, fitness trackers is part of this whole thing as well. Like this obsession with tracking recovery. Like I wore an Oura ring for like 5 years, 5 and a bit years. It broke, and then they didn't want to replace it, even though it was under warranty. It was the whole thing. And I just like didn't care to like get another one, because one, I just didn't want to buy it. And two, was like, I kind of got all the data after 5 years I needed from it. Like it wasn't really doing anything special for me anymore, as far as like what I was learning from it after 5 years. Like fine product and all that stuff, and like nothing wrong with them. But then when you get into this obsession with tracking data, and it's like, do you feel good or not? Like that's what recovery is. Did you sleep good? Like, if you slept well or not. You don't need a device to tell you if you slept well or not. You know these things, and sure, it's helpful, but it can also be a curse. So you got to be careful with those things. But you don't really need it. It's certainly not necessary. You know if you're recovered or not, and if you're not doing the things, if you're not sleeping well, if you're not eating well, if you're not just like generally having some time to rest and unplug throughout the week, then yeah, you're not recovered well, and you can do good to improve that. Like we're just in this strange place where I think most people need to train way harder and also rest way harder. And rest doesn't need to become competitive, but it's like we're always in the middle. Like we just don't train that hard. You don't work that hard at work. You rest, but like not really, because you're always kind of connected to your phone and always like plugged in and always like, psychologically tuned in to like what's going on. Like rarely do we just kick our feet up and just chill. And you might do that on vacation. You might do that in the summer or at a cottage or at a party, but those are few and far between. And so there's something to the training harder that lends into more of this dichotomy. It's not to sound like, all like woo-woo stuff, but it's kind of like you can't see the light we couldn't see light if we didn't have dark. Like we need this contrast of stuff. And so if you're able to train a little bit harder, then you can actually rest a little bit more as well, because you have something to compare it to. But when you're training at 50%, your effort at work is at 50%, your effort, quote unquote, in your recovery is at 50%, everything is just kind of the same, and it's just gray, and it's just like we're doing a lot of stuff but not really accomplishing anything. Like that seems problematic to me. And so if we can get to a place where you train hard when you train, and you rest hard when you rest, and when you're at work, you like for those 8 hours you focus, like things would happen a lot faster, and you would be significantly more productive, and maybe you'd even need to spend less time, especially at work. Listen, I don't have a corporate job. I know lots of people have corporate jobs. I'm almost positive that for the vast majority of jobs, people could work way harder and probably work for half the time. Like you can probably get done whatever you need to do in like 3 hours, except there's a lot of like, office bullshitting and like stuff that happens, and just wasting time scrolling your phone, answers stuff, whatever, chit chat, that like makes the thing take 8 hours. But like you could probably just finish it in 3 hours and pack it up and be on your way. So outside of just being generally available to answer calls and stuff like that. But, anyways, that aside, I think there's a sweet spot of like, we can train really hard, we can rest really hard, we can work really hard, and so we can recover really hard as well, but it doesn't have to be so intentional. We don't have to be so like crazy about this rest thing. It's just like, it'll happen naturally if we have something to rest from. But because we're not working that hard, because we're not training that hard, it's like your body doesn't even feel like you need to rest. You try to rest because you want to, but then that's not correct to say at all. You try to rest because you know that it's like important. But then when you're resting, you're not doing it properly, as in, again, on your phone, like not disconnected. You're like totally thinking of things, doing other stuff. Like you're just not actually resting. You're just doing a different thing, but you're just doing everything at 50%. If you just did things, if you just whole-ass things instead of half-ass everything, like that will play into that dichotomy so that you can kind of realize it and pick it up and be like, hey, Now I'm not doing the thing. Now my body actually wants to rest. I've been so focused and so consumed by the work that I was just doing, by the workout that I just had, by the whatever, that I don't want any dopamine. I don't want anything stimulating me right now. I want to just sit outside in the backyard, kick my feet up, and chill for 10 minutes. And you do that, and then you go back to working hard and grinding. But you gotta rest hard so you can actually get back to pushing hard, and you'll find that you'll be more effective, you'll be more efficient, and you'll get more stuff done this way. So the idea of like resting more is not to like be chill and enjoy your life, and you only live once, so you got to do fun stuff. It's not that. It is that, but it's also so that you have more time to be productive and to do enjoyable things. But because we're always at this halfway point, it's just like either way, we never really accomplish the amount of stuff that we want to accomplish, and then we also don't rest enough, and we also don't do enough fun stuff. So it would be better off if you just push a little bit harder when you need to push, so you can focus more, so that your rest becomes more efficient, and then your leisure time increases too. So maybe I'm off my rocker on that one. I don't know. But I think that there's certainly something to it, and either way, like your ability to recover is an important one, and I just think that many people are approaching it all wrong. So dial in your sleep, forget the gimmicks and stuff post-workout, deal with your nervous system, and for lack of a better phrase on that one, a simpler phrase rather, deal with your brain and your psychological impact of your workouts and all that stuff. Don't worry so much about your muscles. Like, your muscles are fine. You're resilient. Like, you're going to be okay. Focus on resting, focus on sleeping, focus on fueling yourself properly, and all these things are going to take care of themselves. And then we can talk about other stuff. And if your training is super hard, yes, then there's certainly a place for all those recovery modalities. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just probably not solving the problem that you think they are. And that's my whole point with this. So hopefully that was helpful. I know that, again, there's probably some of you listening to this that are super type A and we're listening, waiting for maybe, not that I'm like a Huberman, but like some recovery protocol thing. Like, hey, you actually need less of that. You just need to shut off your phone, go outside, and do that, and just do nothing for a little bit. Call a buddy and see what's up, and just say like, hey, I just called to say what's up. I don't need anything. I just called to like, what did you do today? Do that, and see if your recovery improves, because I guarantee you that it will. All right, we'll leave it there. Time to go recover. Thank you for listening. As always, like, share, subscribe, send a review, or leave a review rather. Send the episode to a friend. Always helps. Always very much appreciated, so that I can rest instead of worrying. Are people listening to this podcast? Do people like it? Because I don't know. I see numbers come in and I see views, but I have to go out of my way to get feedback from people, and you have to go out of your way too. So whenever I do get feedback, I am super appreciative of it. But if there's things you want to see, things you feedback on, send it my way. Let me know. Send it to your friends so that we keep spreading the good message. But appreciate you. Go outside. Be a good person. See you next time.